December 22nd, 1849, St. Petersburg. Freezing morning, Fyodor Dostoevsky stands blindfolded in front of a firing squad. He's 28 years old. In minutes, he'll be dead. Soldiers raise their rifles. Dostoevsky hears the command. He waits for the bullets. Then, a messenger arrives. Last-minute reprieve. The Tsar has mercifully commuted his sentence to 4 years of hard labor in Siberia. It was psychological torture, make them think they're about to die, then save them at the last moment. Dostoevsky collapsed. One of his fellow prisoners went permanently insane from the shock. The young, idealistic writer who believed in utopian socialism and the perfectibility of man was about to descend into hell. 4 years in a Siberian prison camp, chained, freezing, surrounded by murderers. The man who emerged 4 years later was completely different, harder, wiser, transformed. And what he learned in that hell would become the foundation for some of the greatest novels ever written. Crime and Punishment, The Brothers Karamazov, The Idiot. Today, I'm sharing the 10 brutal truths Dostoevsky discovered in Siberian prison. Lessons earned through suffering. Wisdom paid for in blood and tears. Let's begin. Truth hash 1. Humans can get used to anything, Dostoevsky wrote. Man is a creature that can get accustomed to anything, and I think that is the best definition of him. When he first arrived at the prison, he thought he'd die. The conditions were unbearable. 200 men crammed into barracks designed for 50. The smell of unwashed bodies. The constant noise. The heavy leg irons, 10 pounds of iron locked around your ankles, never removed, even for sleep. He was convinced he couldn't survive. But within weeks, he adapted. The chains became normal. The noise became background. The horror became routine. This is both humanity's greatest strength and greatest danger. The strength, we can endure almost anything. Poverty, illness, loss. Humans adapt and survive. We're tougher than we think. The danger, we also adapt to injustice, cruelty, mediocrity. We accept the unacceptable. We normalize the abnormal. The lesson, you're more resilient than you believe. You can survive things that terrify you. But be careful what you get used to, because you'll adapt to poison just as easily as medicine. Truth hash 2. Freedom isn't just physical. Here's what broke Dostoevsky more than the chains or the labor. The complete loss of choice. Every moment was controlled. When to wake, when to eat, when to work, when to sleep. No decisions, no ill. He realized freedom isn't the absence of chains. Freedom is the ability to choose. You can be physically free but spiritually imprisoned. Trapped by addiction, fear, other people's expectations, your own limiting beliefs. And you can be physically imprisoned but spiritually free, choosing your attitude, your thoughts, your response to circumstances. Viktor Frankl, who survived Nazi concentration camps, learned the same lesson a century later. He called it the last of human freedoms, the ability to choose your response to any situation. The lesson. Check yourself. Are you physically free but mentally caged? What invisible chains are you wearing? What choices have you surrendered that you could reclaim? Truth hash 3. Class doesn't make you better before prison. Dostoevsky was a nobleman, educated, refined, part of the intellectual elite. He thought he understood the people, the Russian peasants. He wanted to help them, uplift them, educate them, but he didn't actually know them. In prison, he lived with them, slept next to them, worked beside them, and they hated him for being a nobleman. They saw him as a class enemy and oppressor, and Dostoevsky discovered something humbling. These simple peasants were just as complex, intelligent, and capable as any educated nobleman. Often more so, they had rich inner lives, sophisticated social codes, incredible resilience and creativity. His education didn't make him superior. His social class didn't make him better. It just made him different. And in prison, different meant isolated. The lesson, your credentials, your background, your social status. Privilege is an accident of birth, not proof of worth. Real respect comes from character, not class. Truth hash 4. Meaningless suffering destroys the soul. The labor in prison wasn't the hardest part. Dostoevsky could handle physical exhaustion. What destroyed prisoners was the pointlessness of the work. carrying snow from one pile to another, then back again, breaking rocks into smaller rocks for no reason, crushing bricks into powder that served no purpose. Dostoevsky observed, if you forced a man to pour water from one bucket into another endlessly with no goal, he'd go insane or kill himself within days. Humans need meaning. We need to feel like our efforts matter, that we're building something, contributing something, moving towards something. Take away purpose and you destroy the soul more effectively than any whip. Relationship to daily life feel meaningless. That's not weakness. That's your soul screaming that something's wrong. Find meaning or create it. Your mental health depends on it. Truth #5. Dignity survives even in hell. Here's what shocked Dostoevsky. Even in the worst conditions, even when treated like animals, prisoners clung to their dignity. They took pride in their skills, woodworking, leathercraft. They created things during free time and sold them. They maintained personal codes of honor. They resisted dehumanization in countless small ways. One prisoner would carefully wash his rags and hang them to dry, even though they'd be filthy again within hours. Why? Because cleanliness was one small thing he could control, one tiny assertion of human dignity. Another prisoner, dying of tuberculosis, used his last strength to ask forgiveness, not from God, but from the men he'd wronged. Dostoevsky realized you can take everything from a person, freedom, comfort, safety, but you can't take their essential humanity unless they surrender it. The lesson: no matter how degrading your circumstances, you choose whether to maintain your dignity. External conditions don't determine your worth. You do. Truth #6. Good and evil aren't simple before prison. Dostoevsky's moral worldview was simple. There are good people and bad people. Criminals are bad. The educated and moral are good. Prison shattered that. He met murderers who showed incredible kindness, thieves who were scrupulously honest about some things, brutal men who created beautiful art. He met one prisoner, a child killer, who also tenderly cared for a sick boy in the prison hospital. How do you reconcile that? How is the same person capable of monstrous evil and genuine compassion? Dostoevsky stopped believing in purely good or purely evil people. Instead, he saw humans as battlegrounds, constant struggles between light and darkness, angel and demon, creation and destruction. We all contain multitudes. We're all capable of both cruelty and kindness. The lesson: stop dividing the world into good people and bad people. Everyone is complex. Everyone is contradictory, including you. The question isn't whether you have darkness inside. You do. The question is, which part of yourself are you feeding? Truth #7. Suffering doesn't automatically make you better. Here's a hard truth. Suffering doesn't redeem you just by happening to you. Dostoevsky saw prisoners who became worse from their suffering, harder, more bitter, more cruel. Suffering can destroy you or transform you. The difference isn't the suffering itself, it's what you do with it. Do you reflect on it? Do you let it teach you empathy for others who suffer? Do you use it to understand yourself more deeply? Or do you just become a victim, nursing your wounds, using your pain as an excuse to hurt others? Dostoevsky emerged from prison transformed, but not because suffering is automatically redemptive. Because he wrestled with it, interacted on it, tried to extract meaning from it. The lesson: your pain doesn't entitle you to anything. It doesn't make you noble. What matters is how you metabolize that suffering. Do you become bitter or better? Do you let it harden you or open you? Truth #8. You need beauty to survive this one surprise. Dostoevsky. During Christmas, prisoners were allowed to put on a play. They built sets, made costumes, rehearsed, and on performance night, these brutal, illiterate men, many of them murderers, became artists. They threw themselves into their roles with passion. They improvised. They created beauty. In the audience of prisoners, they laughed, they cheered. For a few hours, they forgot they were in hell. Dostoevsky realized humans have an irreducible need for beauty, for art, for transcendence. You can survive without comfort, without freedom, without hope even. But you can't survive without something that makes you feel human. Music, stories, creativity, something that reminds you you're more than an animal. The lesson: don't sacrifice beauty for practicality. Don't dismiss art as frivolous. You need more than food and shelter to truly live. Feed your soul, not just your body. Truth #9. Isolation is worse than hardships. The physical hardships were brutal. The cold, the chains, the labor. But what truly broke Dostoevsky was the isolation. Not physical solitude, but social alienation. He was surrounded by people, but utterly alone. The peasant prisoners hated him for being a nobleman. He couldn't connect across the class divide. He had no one to truly talk to. He wrote, "In all the 10 years of my term, not once, not for a single minute, would I be alone. Surrounded by people, completely isolated. That's more torturous than any physical pain. Humans are social creatures. We need connection. We need to be seen, understood, valued. Solitary confinement drives people insane faster than any other punishment. The lesson: loneliness is a health crisis. If you're surrounded by people but feel alone, that's not weakness, that's a fundamental human need going unmet. Real connection isn't optional, it's survival." Truth #10. Your worst moment doesn't define you. This is the most important truth. Dostoevsky met men who'd committed terrible crimes, murder, rape, unthinkable things, and yes, they had to live with what they'd done, but Dostoevsky learned a person is more than their worst action. These men had also been children once. They'd loved, they'd dreamed, they'd made choices, some good, some catastrophic. They weren't demons. They were humans who'd done monstrous things. And if they could still change, still grow, still find some redemption, then so can anyone. Dostoevsky himself faced a firing squad for his political beliefs. He spent 4 years in chains. He was broken, humiliated, destroyed. But he didn't stay there. He rebuilt himself. He became one of the greatest writers in history. Your worst moment, your biggest failure, your deepest shame, your most catastrophic mistake doesn't have to be your final word. The lesson: you're not defined by your worst day. You're defined by what you do after it. Can you learn? Can you grow? Can you become someone new? Redemption is possible. Transformation is real. But only if you choose it.